Well, thank you guys for showing up. I really appreciate it. It's so good to see. I mean, there's so many of you on the Zoom world, but it's so awesome to have, God, we have a lot of people here in the room, which I love. So thank you guys for taking time out of your days to be here. You guys, I mean, you just stated it. The fact that you've got listing setting. We have not seen this in months and months and months, that this is going to be something that we need to be thinking about and planning for and pricing appropriately. We are not going to, and you guys have, like, when my very first closing, I know I jump around all the time, you'll love it. My very first closing, went to it, closed, went home, sitting there celebrating my very first closing. All of a sudden at 5:05, I get a phone call saying I got to go take the keys back. My clients don't actually own the house yet. It never funded. Oh yes, can you imagine? I'm like, yeah, closed my first deal. I am awesome. And no, it didn't close because the mortgage company imploded that day. Very first closing ever. Can you imagine?
You're still here.
I know. So if I can recover
What's up, McDonald's?
or Kohl's, as Timmy would like to say. No, but I mean, actually, I don't even think Kohl's existed back then. That's how long I've been doing this. But in all seriousness, that was the telltale of the beginning of the implosion of the mortgage industry and the changes that had to occur because of the way lending practices were. It was a pretty terrifying time. And I have PTSD today sitting in front of all of you because of the fact that my whole family came this close to losing our own home because of that. So that being said, you are going to be facing a market where you guys do need to be thinking about what are the people on the other side of the table thinking about with regard to how they're pricing and what their motivations are, as well as you guys need to be on top of your game to be able to do the best job that you can for your clients to put food on your own tables and be prepared. Because it is an industry where, and I will tell you, Nate grew this company when this industry shifted, and you guys showing up here today, putting your heads into your scripting with Tim to do the phone calls that you guys need to do, that stuff is going to be so important as this market shifts, and you need to be prepared for it. And you couldn't be in a better place to be learning all of this stuff than with the team of people who you're surrounded by. Okay, so now my soapbox moment is over, and I've shared a lot. So now you guys all know that if I can make it through the craziness of what happened in the industry previously, it's not going to be that this time. We're in a much better place than we were, back in 2006 to 2009. The mortgage industry is not the same, but you guys do need to get on top of your pricing and having good conversations with your sellers and thinking about what the bigger picture is. So we're talking absorption today. I passed out a flyer in here, and I betcha if you give me 1 second, you guys will get to see like all the craziness of, let's see if I can share. Can I share? This is where Melissa comes in and helps me because I don't know how do I share the link for this page in the chat? Can I do that? Someone
just copy and paste it.
Copy and paste it.
Like the URL.
Yep, copy the URL and then just paste
URL.
it in.
Okay,
But
copying the URL I can understand.
Sorry.
Go back to the
Hold on, let's see if it worked. Hold on.
All right.
Let's see if I can do it. Boom.
Everyone gets access to the broker drive.
Boom. Well, no, it's not. Is it the
Well,
broker?
because you might have to share it with anybody who has.
No, I
the
think
link.
it's out there. Well, we'll see. Try it. See if you
Try
can
it.
get to it. If you can't, we'll figure it out. I'll get it to you somehow, some way, somewhere. So there you go. And did it work for anybody? Can you link to it?
Nah, it says you need access.
Of course. All right. Well, we'll figure it out. What I am working off of, and this is the page that am I screen sharing? No, I'm not, because I'm an idiot. It's been a little while since I've been on Zoom, a whole week. So don't mind me. So let's screen share with you guys. How about that? All righty. So I'm gonna Let's try that one. All right. So this is like and I cannot take credit for putting the sheet together. There was a gentleman who used to come to trainings with us. His name was Jerry, and I'm blanking on his last name now because it's been so many years. Oh, wow. We actually had to print more for the room. Thank you, Mark.
Seinfeld.
Jerry Seinfeld. Thank you. No, remember Jerry, he has since passed away. Incredible gentleman. He actually created the sheet for me so when I taught the class, I would have a sheet to pass out to you guys. So it takes a village because obviously I'm not great at creating these little sheets. So I have now put it's not I need a new logo on it because it's still the coastal, but we'll work with that. We can make it all work. So absorption rate. When we are talking about absorption rates, we're talking about how much inventory is out there and how many properties are being absorbed in purchase. When we say absorbed, are actually are being sold and moved off market. So that's being absorbed is our absorption. So when we're looking at, and I don't know if I can swap, I can't do that. This is where it gets a little funky. Sorry, guys. Clunky is my middle name. Here we go. We're going to go over and look at Naren for a minute. And you can do this with any MLS that you want. That is a thing. So anything that we're talking about here in this class can be taken into Maine or Massachusetts as an overview. It's just easy because most of you are licensed in New Hampshire. It just makes sense to be able to do it this way. And if you want to speak, just call out. I have to kind of minimize stuff so that I can actually see what's going on. And Jay, if you can keep track of, or somebody keep track of the chat, that would be awesome because I can't keep all that up on the screen at the same time. So years ago, we changed MLSs, and before that they had this great sheet. Our old MLS had this great one-page sheet that you could print off and bring to listings. Naren, when we changed to Paragon, that little sheet went away. Maine has a version of it in their MLS, which actually is pretty cool, that you could use. But I created my own template. Cannot tell you how to do this, so you'll have to kind of figure this out on your own. But if I can figure it out, you can figure it out, right? So when I do searches, I want to look for certain information with regard to properties. Typically, let's just take, we're here in Meredith today. I don't know how this is going to work with numbers. Let's see what we got. Typically, price point, Meredith. What am I going to pull? Is there a market for 300 to 500 here in Meredith at this point?
I go higher.
You have to go higher. So should I start at 500?
500 to $1 million.
All right, well, we'll go 500 to 900,000 because so interesting. This makes a really good point to all of you guys out in Zoom world, is that depending on what towns we are sitting in, price points differ. And obviously the market here is completely different from a market in say Farmington or Rochester, or if I go up into North Conway and I pull Ossipee or Madison or those types of things. You have to be thinking that pricing shifts as you move from market to market. So interestingly enough, we pulled a $400,000 price range and we have 12 active lists. Oh, hold on a second. Let's do this. So one other key to this, and when you guys see, we're going to pull the active listing, or we're just going to do single family homes. We're going to pull active listings. We're going to pull the pendings. We're going to pull the active under contracts, and we're going to pull the close. So you guys will all be able to go in and put these things in there. Then what we're going to do is, and it's easy math, which if you know my math skills, I can do commissions. That's about it. You want to work in easy numbers. 6 months is kind of the norm of what you will be looking at. Now, depending on, like when we were looking at market recently, and you sat in this class with me, I would sit there and say, let's look at maybe the last 3 months, because that truly, when the market was moving so quickly, you had so much data in there that 6 months was probably too much time to have a good estimate of what values are and looking at it. Am I right? Why would that be? What do you think?
Things changed really fast.
Exactly. We just had pricing that continued to move upward. Really?
Listen.
Was
I got
that
a
you?
chat here for you.
Isn't there a bucket you're supposed to
K,
put in?
I know, we used to do this thing, if a phone rang during
Yeah.
class, it was KW cares. Make your deposit. No, I love giving him a hard time about that, but he's answering all the calls I'm not answering right now, so thank you, Jason. So that's the point, is that 3 months in the market that we just saw just gave us, there was such a moving market that was enough data probably for us to be able to get. Typically 6 months, that's what banks are looking at when you guys are thinking about pricing, because how important is a bank in regular transactions? We're not doing cash here, we're thinking financing. You need to have data that will support a lender and the appraisal process, correct? Yeah, all right. So 6 months is the easiest way to do it, so let's see, sorry, this is a little bit smaller on my screen than when you normally see it, so.
Go to the right.
Boom, here we
Date
go.
range.
What'd you say?
I usually go to the date range to the,
Yeah, so usually I'll go back 6 months here. That's what I did.
oh, okay. you
Yep.
do it differently.
Do it my way. This is how I learned to do it. I don't know. So if we go back 6 months, it actually, interestingly enough, got pulled 41, is a count of 41. So when we actually go to the search and pull it up, this is what it's going to do. Now, I have set up this readout to give me data that I like to look at when I'm talking about absorption. So what we're doing too is, interestingly enough, I didn't pull when we're talking, typically when we're talking CMAs, we're looking comparable properties. We're looking like property to like property, right? When this market shifts, there's not going to be enough, like your closed sales are going to start to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you're not going to have any data points to be working off of, because your ability to find like properties is going to get fewer and far between. So it's one of those things that I won't put in 2 bedrooms. I won't put in ranch. I'm pulling the entirety of a market so I can look at what's happening overall. And that's going to be important. And it's one of those things when you are now going to list a, well, ranch styles have kind of made their comeback, but if I were to be going to look at a, let's say a split level, not the most ideal property, right? Not on the, usually people are a little, if you had a regular ranch and a split level, they're probably going for the ranch as opposed to the split level, right? So when you're looking at that, you have to sit here and go, okay, well, finding like to like may not happen. And what is maybe selling that's better than my property that I'm listing? So that's important for you guys to be looking at as well. So we did the, I apologize, this looks like really, really tiny. Can I make it bigger for you guys? Oops. Okay, so typically what I do is I've created where I have the address, the cities, because you have to remember when I created this, I was working in the Seacoast when I was selling. So could I be pulling, and this is a little bit different for you people in the Seacoast, could I be pulling in the Oyster River School District? Could I be pulling Madbury, Durham, and Lee as towns all together and want to look at what the absorption is of all 3 of those? I kind of found it as a rule that if you kind of look from school system to school system based, that's kind of a good data point to be working out of. So you could start micro by going into one specific town, but then also do absorption for any of those towns that are maybe part of a particular school district is a good way to be able to do it. Because you could be looking at something like a Wakefield, although they now have their own, they have their own high school now, I think. That may have changed since I've started this job. But it is one of those things when you can look at towns that are kind of based in a school district, that's pretty helpful as well. Or if a particular, I look at Wolfboro and that the high school with Wolfboro going Kingswood, you could maybe look at it that way as well. So don't discount going too close into just one town, but you also want to think about whatever towns could be surrounding it from a bigger picture. And I always felt like school districts were good because a lot of times where family is moving. And that's one thing that is a really big thought for people who are considering where they're going to live is what school district am I going to live in? Because it does help with regard to also property values. So in this case, we ended up with, wow, well, we kind of pulled a big price point. So a $400,000 price point is pretty big. It's one of those things that maybe on average, you're maybe going, if you are thinking about your property, maybe you're going maybe 100 below, 100 above, and I mean 100,000, so that you are pulling what's surrounding it. And you, I mean, when you guys are going out to price houses, where's your first information coming from about going out to see a house? Tax card. And ultimately, tax cards now, I mean, it's interesting. They're probably, there's a time when your taxes are, your tax value is way above. And now we've seen the shift where prices have kind of outgone what the assessment is. And you have to pay attention also to what assessments are doing in specific towns as well. So don't discount that. But we've got 10 active listings in that price range. Kind of dive deeper into that. So let's write down the what's important is the active listings. We said there were 10. So we'll take that number. Well, huh? Yeah, so that's not necessarily going to be part of our math equation quite yet, but thank you. I appreciate that. But if you want to do the math for me, 13 to, wow, 41. What's the math on that?
28.
28.
Dead side.
I love it. Well done. I gave you a commission, you do like, so, all right, so, and this is in 6 months. Oops. So that's that's quite a few closings. So let's divide our 28 by 6, and what do we get?
4.66.
4.66. So that is the absorption rate for the last 6 months. 4.66. So now it's one of those things where when over 4.5 houses every month for the last 6 months is closing. Pretty healthy. There's going to get to a point, and I could, when I'm sitting in the office in Dover, I can reach back into my files because I still have paper files from deals I did. Yep. I know. We're kindred spirits in that way. I can reach back into files where you have, and this is the thing where, let's take the 10, hold on, I gotta stop for a second and regroup. Let's take the 10 and divide it by the 4.66. Okay, so it's one of those things where I'm getting myself confused about what I'm saying. Hold on, give me my sheet. You can tell it's been a while since I've done this. We've got our total available, the monthly absorption rate, and the time. So this is the amount of months. That's what I was trying to remember. The amount of months it's going to take for us to get through the current amount of inventory that we do have. So it's not to say that every house is going to close in two months, essentially. It's just what we have here is going to take us at least 2 months to get rid of what's currently there. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. Okay. So why is that important? We don't want to essentially tell everybody, hey, your house is going to sell in 2 months, because that's not true, right? I mean, you could have the best house ever, and if it's priced way too high, it's going to sit. It's not going to sell in this 2.15 months. It needs to be priced appropriately. So pricing is still important, but we have a really healthy absorption rate right now. There's going to be a point when this number turns into 24, or 18. And when this becomes, huh?
Or 36.
Or 36, or I've seen 48. Like I've sat at people's kitchen tables and told them that it's going to take us 48 months to get through the amount of inventory that we have sitting in on the market right now. Can you imagine?
Nothing new comes on.
Huh? Yeah, and that's
Nothing new comes on.
right, and that's with nothing else coming on at the time. So, or adding to it. So you guys are in a really, really great place from a perspective that you only have the 10 active listings to be competing against. But what is the competition is important. Now, what Mark made the point about saying about the under contracts, and he said, what were there? 2, I think is what he said. Let's see. Yeah. But interestingly enough, you know what's interesting about this number 2? There's no pendings. So I have this alphabetized. So when it sorts, it goes from our active to our active under contracts to our closed to our pendings. And there's no pendings right now. So people are still also wanting to show properties. They're only putting them in the active under contract. They haven't moved them all the way to pending because why? Why do you think that is? Huh?
There's contingencies.
Maybe contingencies.
Jen, isn't
Yep.
the difference between active under contract and pending, isn't there no relationship to the contract status?
Well, it's up to what your seller wants to do. If your seller says, I don't want to show my property anymore, we're moving it to pending.
But it's not about contingency.
It's not necessarily, but what conversations should you guys be having with people who are in these contracts? Should they be moving to pending?
If they don't want backup offers.
That's a good point, but who wouldn't want a backup offer in this market right now?
The buyer.
The buyer wouldn't,
The buyer will ask you.
but
If the buyer
But
is-
what should we be, but this is a bigger level conversation. What should we be advising maybe our clients to do? I'm seeing deals fall apart daily. So does it make sense for any of us to be putting any of our properties in pending statuses?
No.
No, it doesn't. I would say to you guys right now, pending status, not something somebody should be doing. Because we don't know what happens in a deal. You could get 2 days from closing and somebody's walking away. We had a couple who got all the way to the closing day of closing, decided didn't want to purchase anymore. Like that's the stuff that's happening in our market. So how important is it for us to be making sure that we are doing what's in the best interest of our client and getting the backup offer, putting them in the position that best suits them, because that's what we have to be thinking about. It's not about, oh, I don't want to go show that house again. It's, I got to show this because I don't know what might happen and what's in the best interest of my client. What's the fiduciary? The client is the seller. So best interest would be keep marketing, get the backup offer, do whatever you can to keep that going. But it's really interesting that in this market with, the 10 active listings right now, we only have, and I wish I had some other data for you guys with regard to what it was a few months ago, but to only have 2 under contracts right now in a $500,000 or $400,000 price range is crazy.
Yeah.
Like we were seeing it before where you'd have 9, 10 in the active under contract and the pendings, or 12, or maybe even up into the teens where stuff was just churning and burning. We're not seeing that anymore. And the fact that there are only 2 active under contracts right now is concerning as well. It shows slowdown to market. Okay. So I know we talk about this as a pricing class, but it's also bigger picture things. So I apologize if we aren't getting to the meat of what you guys are here for, but I think these are really good conversations and thoughts that you guys have to be having is, okay, if I'm going to be going to list a property, what's under contract right now? What is selling right now? And what is the latest stuff to have sold is important. And I think the health of the market and looking at when you guys are looking at pricing is to pay attention. While we're not using the active under contracts and the pendings in this piece of the equation, we are when we're sitting at the table so that we understand, okay, how many people came through 38 Ambrose Road? Was there a backup offer? calling that person to find out, sorry, this is driving me nuts. Finding out what the deal is with that property as to what did they have for people coming through like I said, the backup offers, what are they still getting calls on it? So that you can have those conversations to understand what the market's telling you. Where did they fall in regards to, and you can ask, if anybody calls you and asks, I don't know if I would tell them. But you know, if people tell you all kinds of stuff if you ask, it's so crazy. Am I right? It's one of those things where like they just spill their guts to you. Oh yeah, we're, you know, if you're asking about pricing, if we've got the 525 house, where, you know, how close did you get to asking? Or where'd you fall? Can you tell me? And see what they say. They may tell you, which is crazy, but they might, and they have. So don't be afraid to ask. So stuff to consider when we're talking about pricing. And I was trying to see, it's really interesting if we are looking at these properties from a pricing perspective. So what I like to do, just so that you guys can see, is so I have the address, the city, the price, bedroom, bathroom count, and the square footage, which is all really, really important, because when we are thinking about pricing and we are trying to find, because ultimately you are going to need the comparables if there is lending involved. You know, it's great that we've had all these cash deals, but that market is going to shift. Appraisals are going to have to meet for financing. People ultimately are going to be thinking about hanging on to cash as opposed to throwing cash at a deal to make up an appraisal gap, right? That's probably going to go away, and we need to be thinking about that as well.
That went away quick.
Yeah, because you have to think, if interest rates shifted the way that they did, what has that done to somebody's cash on hand? What happened to people's cash on hand because of their stuff that's tied up in stocks? That shifted. You know, you have to be thinking bigger picture with all of that kind of stuff. So interestingly enough, so I don't understand. So as I was saying, the bedroom, bathroom counts do matter. The square footage matters. Days on market. Interesting. Look at these numbers. 40, 231. Well,
That's gonna be new construction at that point.
yeah, probably. Let's open it. Take a peek.
No, it's not. It's land. It's a tear down.
Yeah.
Land.
Is that, what's his name? Sotheby's,
Yeah, Brian. Knight.
Brian.
So, yep, there is a.
Not subdividable.
It is truly not subdividable.
Oh,
Even though it's. I
Even
think
though it
that's the
says it in the
second line
description.
it.
ooh, hold on, kids. Sorry. I can't get out of my screen. It's too small. How do I? Uh-oh.
Yeah, there's a few that you can
Too
take out.
much stuff going on here. Oh, I know why, because I made it big so we could see. I'm like, why can't I close this? All right, so, but it is something where obviously this has been on market for a long time at this point. Let's go, what the heck? Hold
It's
on,
not. It's in the covenants.
there we go. Let's do that. Okay, so days on market. So we saw the 231. Sorry, this whole thing being small. Like once you start sharing to the screen, it gets even smaller. Let's see, 55 days on market. We've got 41, 143, 59, 225, 245.
Look at the price reduction on that one.
347. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that.
Those are all new constructions. So.
And 151. Oh, so those are all new construction. So that's an important.
The Main Street and the Hickory Wood are.
Main Street, and Hickory are all new construction.
Okay, so so remember, we got the people back here who can't, so talk up when you guys, if you're gonna share that information. This is all really good stuff that you guys are spouting out here. They're talking about new construction. What was the other?
So there's, I mean, in this list, there's kind of some weird ones. The one, you have condos and single family, which is a huge market difference here. The two Main Street properties are new constructions already completed. Hickory Wood is a spec new construction. I don't believe that's completed, right? And then the two outliers at the top being Roxbury Road and Beach Hill are both massive pieces of land with terrible homes on them.
You're buying basically.
You're buying
two
the
houses.
land.
Okay. So, I mean, all really good information for those of you guys who, how many are brand new to the business and sitting in the room? Me, yeah, nobody, well, yeah, you. No, but it's important for you guys to be, like, the stuff that they're talking about, and this is where I say, know your markets and know your inventory. It's important for you guys to get out and see this stuff and to know it. If they're, and I would highly, I don't know, you guys gotta bring back, you gotta do like a caravan tour like Mark's sister does, we around here.
Yeah, we've been doing
You've been
it.
doing it,
Yeah.
all right.
Every third Wednesday.
All right,
Every
if
Wednesday.
any, like, go, and for those of you in the Seacoast, go to Melissa's tours. Like, it's important for you, and we talked about doing them back up in North Conway, because we're starting to get some inventory up there. It's a great opportunity to see stuff. If you're newer to the business, get out there and see the stuff so that you can sit here and go, oh, well, that one has this one has that. I've been in that one. How important is that when you're sitting at the table with a seller to be able to know your inventory?